Hello there, you amazing viewers and subscribers, and welcome to a new episode in a look back at the history of Doctor Who. Now, the last time I did one of these videos was way back 3 months ago, so I was going to do this series like once a month, but I don't really want to rush to the end of the series for this one, so I'm going to try and do this series in little bits and dabs. So, for this series, we are going to be looking at the McCoy Era. Right then, so the year is 1986, and of course it is November, and during this time period we're still in the middle of the broadcasts of season 23, known as Trial of a Time Lord. Also at this point, the BBC have greenlit the next season of Doctor Who. Now, at this point it comes with a very, very bad cost to the show producer, John Nathan Turner. So not only does John Nathan Turner have to find a new script editor because Eric Saywood resigned because of the problems they were having with season 23. When I say that, I mean by the original season 23, with the show being put on an 18-month hiatus. Not only has he got to go and find a new script editor, but he had to go and break the most very devastating news to the current Doctor, played by Colin Baker. I'm kind of using these pictures with me and Sylvester and Colin for this video. Sorry about that. As you can see, you got me with Sylvester. Just try and move that out the way. There we are. Is that better? Yeah, you can see them better with these two doctors. So with the cost of basically having to ring Colin Baker to tell him that he is not coming back to play the Doctor in the next season because the idiot of Michael Grading thinks that 3 years is enough time to play the Doctor. Now, yeah, this really upset Colin badly because Colin Baker kind of wanted to try and beat Tom Baker's record of 7 years. So, unfortunately, he kind of had less than 3 years because he had one story tagged along in season 21. Then, of course, he had a full season in season 22. Then he had an 18-month hiatus. And then he had season 23. And that was it. Not John Nathan Turner, sorry, Michael Grading thought, right, that's it, get rid of Colin. Now, Colin was very, very hurt at this point. So was John Nathan Turner, because John Nathan Turner had to make the most very difficult phone call to the current Doctor at this point to say that the next season of Doctor Who has been greenlit, but you kind of been sacked. Yeah, this would have took really bad news if I was playing the Doctor to find out that I've just been given the boot. Yeah. And of course, with having Eric Saywood basically resign during the complications of season 23, things weren't really looking good because, as I say, this was November, and of course, filming was supposed to start in the February. And of course, for the next season, it was also greenlit to have, as we all know, 14 episodes, same as the previous season, aka season 23. So we have 14 episodes, only in 4 stories in season 24. But with Colin Baker saying that he's not coming back for his regeneration story, which does kind of make sense because at one point he says, all right, give me season 24 and I'll leave at the end of the season. So John Nathan Turner went to the BBC and they went, nope. So John Nathan had to go back to Colin and say no, and Colin had to decline to come back to film his regeneration. So with all this going on, the actual very first episode writers for the first story, aka Pip and Jane Baker, had to do so many rewrites for the next story, aka Time and Irani, which sees the return of the Irani. Now, at one point, the regeneration was going to happen at the end of the actual episode, so the Doctor would have defeated the Irani at a cost of his own life, and he had to go regenerate into his next persona. But with Colin Baker saying no, and of course, with John Nathan Turner not even find a new incarnation of the Doctor at this point, things were looking very, very not good for the show for the next season. But luckily, John Nathan Turner picked the most infinite and most successful incarnation of the Doctor, played by Sylvester McCoy. So I believe he went to a stage play where Sylvester McCoy was actually playing the Pied Python in that play, and of course, they both got talking, and Sylvester McCoy said, yes, I'd like to be the next Doctor. I could be 100% wrong on that one, but I did look this up before I even said so. So, with the next Doctor being Sylvester McCoy and with Bonnie Langford still playing Mel, the next challenge came to find a script editor. And of course, it is Andrew Cartmel. Now, Andrew Cartmel came up with the Cartmel plan to make this Doctor more than a Time Lord. Like, he's the Time Lord from the very beginning. He's one of the ones that helped to create the psychology of the Time Lords. And of course, that does come part in, as we all know, the trial of the Timeless Children story arc in series 12. So let's dive into season 24 now. So season 24 was broadcast from the 7th of September to the 7th of December 1987, with 14 episodes in 4 stories called Tara Nirani, Paradise Towers, Delta and the Batman, and of course, Dragonfire. Now, Dragonfire is the departure to Bonnie Langford, aka Mel. Now, I don't know why Bonnie Langford said that she wanted to leave at the end of this season, because I think she would have been good in season 25 as well. I imagine Mel with Ace against the Daleks and Cybermen, and of course the Candyman, and very, very dangerous, deadly clowns as well from The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. But Bonnie Langford basically leaves the role at the end of Dragonfire, and of course we get the new companion brought in, aka Sophie Aldred, who plays Ace for the next 2 seasons. Now, during this point, we were supposed to have another companion to the show, because the girl that played Ray in Delta and the Batman, she was supposed to be the next companion, but John Nathan Turner said no, Sophie Aldred is the next companion to the Doctor. So that's season 24. So the next season, season 25, was also greenlit at this point in 1987. And of course, it is the silver year of the show, with it being 25 years of Doctor Who as the programme. And of course, with it being 25 years of the show, it is an anniversary season. And of course, during this season, we are introduced to a new writer called Ben Ondovich, who writes 2 good stories in the McCoy era. One in season 25 and one in season 26. One is called Remembrance of the Daleks, and the other one is known as Battlefield. So this season, we see the return of the Daleks and the Cybermen for the first time since season 22 back in 1985. So basically 3 years later. And of course, like season 24, this season has 4 stories in 14 episodes as the format, which was actually broadcast from the 5th of October 1988 to the 4th of January 1989. Now, there was a bit of a schedule problem with this one, because Remembrance of the Daleks was actually supposed to be a bit earlier, but with something going on with the BBC at the time, it kind of got pushed back to October, which means it finished in the January instead of finishing in the December like it was originally going to. Plus, we start seeing the more chess master version of the Doctor in the story. The way the 7th Doctor manipulates the Daleks in Remembrance of the Daleks, and of course he uses the Silver Nemesis to basically fly into the Cyber Fleet and blows it up in the, in Silver Nemesis. So, and of course he also destroys Skaro. So in this season, we have 4 stories in 14 episodes, which is, of course, Remembrance of the Daleks, the Happiness Patrol, the Silver Nemesis, and, of course, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. Now, the Happiness Patrol, it is one of my favourite stories from this season. I'm going to be honest, it's my 3rd favourite story of the season. I'm not really too fond of The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, because I really think that story has a few issues. And not only is it from a very good season, it's my 2nd favourite season starring Sylvester McCoy. The Happiness Patrol, I have to admit, it's my 3rd favourite. One, I really do like the design of the Candyman. I really do like H as the main villain saying, "Happiness will prevail." I really do that one. So, during this point, the next season was basically commissioned, which is, of course, season 26, which is more darker than the other 2 previous seasons for the 7th Doctor. So, what can I tell you about season 26? We also see a manipulative side to the 7th Doctor in this story, in stories such like The Curse of Fenric and Ghostlight. This is the last season of classic Doctor Who, as the show is cancelled by the BBC back in November. So during the broadcast of this season, they weren't even told it was cancelled. They were told it's going on a break for a bit. that they're going to put the show on a break and bring it back. But unfortunately, it never came back until 1996 in the TV movie. And then, of course, it took another 9 years for the show to come back. So in total, it took 16 years to go from the end of 1989 to 2005 for the show to return, basically with a whole series. So this season sees the return of Unit since 1976 story, aka the Seeds of Doom. And of course, it is also the return of the Master since season 23 in The Ultimate Foe. Still played by Anthony Ely. So this season, a bit like season 23, it was actually broadcast from the 6th of September to the 6th of December 1989. Now, the one thing I think that really damaged this whole era for the McCoy is that the fact that the BBC put it against Coronation Street on a Wednesday. Yeah, you know what? If they would have kept it on a Saturday, I think it would have done so much better and so much brilliantly. But putting it against Coronation Street, where viewers are thinking about, oh, what should we watch? Oh yeah, let's go and see what's going on in the cobbles in Coronation Street in that crappy programme. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Doctor Who did not do well against ITV's Coronation Street because of the idiots at the time. So also in this season, in season 26, we have 4 stories in 14 episodes, which is of course Battlefield, Ghostlight, The Curse of Fenric, and of course Survival. Now, I really do enjoy the stories. Now, Battlefield, we see the return of Unit. We are introduced to something brand new, written by Ben Olivich. Now, in Remembrance of the Daleks, it's taking essence of the Doctor's past. The Doctor was on Earth, where he abandoned the Hand of Omega. The Daleks are chasing after him. In this story, Battlefield, it's actually a different take on the role. So when I say that, it means this is from the Doctor's future. So at this point, the events that are already happening in this story are continuing from a further point where a future Doctor basically defeated Morgaine. Or she defeated him. It depends however side you hear it on. Because you have Alistair's side, and then of course you got Aldred's side, and then you got Morgaine. I really do enjoy this story, because I really do like the fact we see the return of Bessie. No matter how, I don't even know how they even got her out of the death zone on Gallifrey. Unless when basically Rassilon sent them all back in time in the 5 Doctors, basically send them all back into their own points in time with the companions, then probably yeah, Bessie went back with the 3rd Doctor. We just literally do not know. And then that's it really, because the show was basically not told they were going to be axed. I mean, John Nathan Turner never got told the show was being cancelled. He just got told it was going to hiatus. Again, another hiatus. And they were going to bring it back in a couple of years. But they never did until 2005. So, of course, leading into the final speech of Survival, where the Doctor goes, "There's worlds out there where the sky is burning, where the seas is asleep and the rivers dream. People murder smoke and cities murder song. Someone is danger. Someone is injustice. Come on, Ace. We got work to do." And that is it for the 7th Doctor. Now, luckily, Big Finish has kind of dived into this, to the events after this point for the 7th Doctor on screen, which also does lead up to the TV movie, where we see the regeneration. After the 7th Doctor is basically picked up the remains on Skaro of the Master and taken back to Gallifrey, and the Master basically does break out and escape, and of course, making the TARDIS crash land on Earth in 1999 in San Francisco. And the 7th Doctor is gunned down by gangsters. And of course it does. And he has to go to hospital. Then the idiots they are don't even know that the Doctor's actually aliens. And they end up killing him by putting anaesthetic in his body. And then of course, which nearly destroyed the regeneration process. But the regeneration still takes over. And he regenerates into no other than Paul McGann. But Big Finish has basically took over this point in the 7th Doctor's timeline. With so many iconic stories like the 2 Masters, and of course Thin Ice, which is a really great story from the Lost Stories arc in Big Finish. And of course there are also Damaged Goods, which is another fantastic Doctor Who story I really do enjoy. So the 7th Doctor kind of does have a bit more of a longer life during Big Finish. So that's mainly it for the McCoy era, apart from ranking his episodes. How do I rank the McCoy era? So let's sit here and dive into how I rank the McCoy era. So number 12, I've had to put The Doubter and the Barrowman. Now, this story is kind of good, but I do have a few issues with it. Like the fact that people think this one's more funny and clownic side. But there again, though, a busload of people just end up blowing up in it because of the Barman shooting the boss. Yeah. I don't get why people really don't like Season 24. Season 24 is a bit darker than Season 23. The only silly story in this one is actually Time and Irani. And, of course, it is a bit decent, I have to admit. But I really do like Doubtful and the Barman because I do think it's a bit darker. Then, of course, in number 12, we have The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. Now, the only good thing about this story, I have to admit, is where you got Sylvester McCoy doing his own stunt, where he's actually walking away from the circus tent, and it's actually blowing up. Now, this story did have the budget at one point to go out and film, but because something happened, they actually had to build a tent in the BBC car park, and they had to film outside the BBC centre. The next story is, of course, Time and Irani, the first story starring Sylvester McCoy. Now, this story had to go through so many rewrites because Pip and Jane Baker was actually writing it for Colin Baker, but then Colin Baker said no, so they had to rewrite it for Sylvester McCoy and move the regeneration from the end of the story to the beginning of the story. Yeah, that was even though that was very hard for Pip and Jane Baker to do because they had to rewrite a load of stuff. You know what? I think they did absolutely brilliant with it. Then, of course, in number 9, we have the Happiness Patrol. Yes, I do like the Happiness Patrol. The weak villain of this one has got to be the Candyman, but he still has some good moments. And he goes, "Welcome to the Candy Kitchen, gentlemen. I assure you, the honours will. I do hope so. I do like my volunteers to die with smiles on their faces." I absolutely love that one. The next story in 8th place is, of course, Paradise Towers, the second story to star Sylvester McCoy as the 7th Doctor. Now, Paradise Towers, it is more of a dark story. You do see a load of deaths going on with the robot cleaners. You have red Kangs, blue Kangs. The yellow Kangs have been taken to the sweepers. I really do like this one. And the true fact is, though, the writer of this story was actually going to do a sequel to the story in the next season, but he had to rewrite it and make, of course, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. The next story in 7th place is, of course, Silver Nemesis. Now, this is the last appearance of the Cybermen in classic Doctor Who. Is it a great story for the Cybermen? No, because you've got so much going on, and it's not really basically explained so well. It's like Stephen Moffat kind of wrote this story. Like, the way you see Stephen Moffat write Modern Doctor Who from Series 6 Part 2 down to Series 9, and the fact he's there with his brain going, oh, blah, 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 blah. This is a bit like that era. It feels like this is a much like a Stephen Moffat story, because you have so much going on, because you've got Nazis, you've got an ancient lady person with her bow and arrow guy with poison darts going after the Silver Nemesis, as well as the Cybermen. And of course, you've got the Doctor and Ace kind of stuck in the middle of this situation. So yeah, this does feel much like a Stephen Moffat story, but unfortunately it's not a Stephen Moffat story because this is way before Stephen Moffat started writing for Doctor Who. But it does actually have essence of the Moffat era, I have to admit, and I do think out of Classic Who, this is the most Moffat story. It's not even a Moffat story, but it does feel like a Moffat story. Then, of course, in number 6, we have Ghostlight. Now, Ghostlight is absolutely brilliant. It's fantastic. It also sees the manipulative side to the Doctor and Ace, where he goes to Ace, we all in the universe have our own terrors to face. I do love Ghostlight. It's absolutely brilliant. Number 5, now, another sci-fi guy will probably kill me for putting this story in 5th place. It's got to be Battlefield, because I know he's got a few issues with Battlefield, when McCoy's screaming, stop! I get his point, but I have to admit, yes, the music could do really, really betterly, but I have to admit, I kind of do enjoy the story for what it is, because growing up, I have to be honest with you, this was the second unit story I actually ever watched with my dad. Now, the first one was, of course, Planet of the Spiders, so my second unit story was actually this story, Battlefield. So I was kind of watching this story with my dad. It was the second unit story I watched when I was 3 years old with him. And I got so many fun memories of this one. So, number 4, we have to jump into the final story of Classic Who, aka Survival. This is the last ever appearance of Anthony Aileen's Master as well. And I have to be honest with you, this version of the Master, I absolutely do enjoy Anthony Aileen. He's my favourite Master because he was the first Master I actually ever watched growing up. I absolutely do enjoy Anthony Aileen's performance as the Master. The way he's just there, but like, sending these cats into our dimension because for some reason you've got the cheetah planet and there's like this little gateway. And of course the 7th Doctor does kind of fall into it by accident because of that idiot Jim person. And when the Doctor goes, trust me, one finger can be deadly. I absolutely do love that story. So in 3rd place, I had to put this story in 3rd place because I got so much appreciation and so much love for the story. It is Dragonfire. I absolutely do love Dragonfire. I think it's an absolutely brilliant story and absolutely fantastic. My second favourite story for McCoy has got to be Remembrance of the Daleks. Remembrance of the Daleks. I absolutely love this one. A Dalek Civil War, Hand of Omega, the Doctor destroys Gallifrey, the Doctor destroys Skaro, not Gallifrey, that's the War Doctor, but he does destroy Skaro by using the Hand of Omega and turning Skaro suddenly into a supernova. And this is more when the Chessmaster Doctors does start. And then, of course, number 1, my all-time favourite McCoy story is The Curse of Fenric. Yes, I absolutely do love The Curse of Fenric. I think it's an absolutely fantastic story. McCoy's brilliant in this story all the way through. I really do like the way how he manipulates Ace when he realises that the Heatherfall King was basically being controlled by Ace's faith in him, and he goes, "You can't penetrate Ace's psychic force." And the way he then manipulates Ace and goes, "Go on then, kill her." And then he literally ditches the book going, "She's nothing more than a cripple. I wouldn't waste my time on her. I just had to use her somehow." I really just love The Curse of Fenric. The Heatherfalls are absolutely brilliant, and of course, I really like the way how they filmed them coming out of the beach. Like when you got them coming out of the sea onto the stony beach pebble, and I believe the story was actually filmed in Devon. I really love the way how this story looks. I love the way how it feels, and it's definitely a story you can tell is set in World War II, with Russians, and of course with us, and of course with them basically having a picture of Hitler on the wall, that Nazi guy thing. Dr. Johnson, I think he's absolutely brilliant as a character, but when you kind of see Fenric take over his body, and the way he literally goes, "So, Doctor," no, sorry, he goes, so you're here to play the closest again, Time Lord," and the way he just there with these yellow eyes, and I think their yellow contacts are just absolutely brilliant. So that is me ranking the McCoy era and talking a bit about the McCoy era. So what is your favourite story from the McCoy era? What do you think of the McCoy era? Thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share, and join me for the next video of a look back at the history of Doctor Who. Next time I'm going to try and talk about my most favourite Doctor, aka Tom Baker. If not, I'll probably try and save him, second, like, as you all know, the best for last, because he is the best Doctor. He is the best Doctor out of all of them. So thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and share, and join for more awesome Doctor Who content. Thank you for watching.